First of all, I'd like to say thank you to State Representative Ron Reynolds for your public service. And he has been an advocate for his community for quite some time, several years. So thank you for that, Ron. With that said, what is the government doing, local, state, federal, in your opinion? And how can the government get more involved in helping autism and the autism community?
Thank you, Jackie. And I want to thank Matt Jackson and Hope for Three for organizing such a distinguished panel with all of these subject matter experts. And I want to thank you, the audience, for being concerned enough to be here and being engaged. I think this is something that is very serious, and hopefully today we can have a great dialogue and leave with some things that we can do to work together. At the state level, it was just mentioned from Texana, and I want to say that they are always a resource. Every session, there are members from Texana and from the Fort Bend community that come to Austin to talk about the needs of this county specifically, and they advocate for autism funding. She talked about the DARS program. Because of your advocacy, we increased funding in the last legislative session, the 84th session, for the DARS program, but it's not enough. And Jackie, one of the things that I wanted to tell the parents and the concerned citizens here, the way that things work in Austin is everything is based, we have a budget. We have a certain pile of money that our comptroller projects 2 years forward based upon what we anticipate our revenues will be. Now, unlike Congress, where they can just spend unforeseen amounts of money, we have to balance our budgets. We can't carry forward debt. And so basically, if they say we have, you know, $215 billion, that's the number we have. We can't go a penny over. And so what we have to do is take everything that we have. Our schools take up the bulk of the money, funding our public schools. And I think you would agree that we should put our resources in our education. Our prisons, our state roads, our hospitals, our colleges, our nursing homes, everything goes into that pot of money. I mean, everything that our state funds. And so everybody has their projects that they want to see us fund. And the way that we prioritize is based upon the needs. And when we see constituents come down, we only meet once every 2 years, from January through the end of May. That's it. And if it's not done during that period of time, you have to wait pretty much 2 years unless the governor calls a special session. He only does that in very rare, exceptional circumstances. So basically, if you don't get it done during that time, you have to wait 2 years. And so what I want to impress upon everyone that's here, and even those who aren't here, I want you to be the villagers. I want you to take this message back to other people, friends, family, concerned citizens that care about autism. We know the statistics. We know that it's an alarming rate that is growing at. And so what can we do? Well, I can tell you what you can do. You can visit with your state representative, your state senator, and tell them why it's so important to you that they make autism a priority in terms of our budgets. And you want them to, and Matt can talk about, the needs, and Texana, other people can talk about the needs, but I know from when I talk to the experts, even though we had an increase during the last session, it still wasn't enough. And so if you will be engaged, and this is how you do it, you make you write a letter to your state representative, to your state senator, you make a phone call, but the most important thing that you can do when they know you're really serious is when you travel to Austin. There's a legislative day that Texana has. If you will coordinate with them, and if you walk the halls, and if they see hundreds of people, and you wear a unified shirt, a blue shirt, or whatever you want to wear, showing that you guys are unified and you speak with one voice, that's very impactful. When we see that there are large groups, and it's kind of like you hear about lobbyists and you hear about special interests. The most important lobbyists to legislators is the constituents, the people that, you're our bosses. You're the ones that put us in office. You have the ability to hire and you have the ability to fire. And so what you want to do is say, hey, are you committed to, in the appropriations for autism? Are you committed to that? I want to know yes or no. and put them on the hook. Don't let them give you any, wiggle, any gray areas. Well, let me see. If they say that they want to do some more research, that's fine. Well, say, when should I follow back up with you? And that way they know you're serious. And a lot of times we get busy during the session. Find out who the chief of staff is. Find out who the legislative director is. And make sure that you get that person's information so that you can correspond with them throughout the session. And that, my friends, is the way that we can make this a priority. And I was happy to see on the clip you had Governor Abbott, who is a great governor. You had John Cornyn at the federal level. But we need to make sure that during the next session that we get coordinated. And at the beginning of the session, I want to see a record number of people storming the halls of the legislature, meeting with your member, and because everything that we do, it's all about votes. We have to have the votes to do it. And I know Rick Miller, who's not here, and John we have John Zurwas and Phil Stevenson. Those are your other state representatives. And then you have Rodney Ellis and you have Joan Huffman. Those are your 2 state senators.
Ron, how can, if we want to get in touch with you, if the audience wants to get in touch with you or your staff, can you give them that information?
Absolutely. My number to my district office is, and I'll give you a second to get your pens, but let me know. I think your brother's ready. 281-208-3574. And that's 281-208-3574. And if you don't know who your representative is, if you call my office, we'll look up your address and let you know who it is and then give you their point of contact. But we want to be a resource to you. We want you to be able to be a great ambassador for autism funding for the next session.
Thank you, Ron. State Representative Ron Reynolds. Next up, we have Ms. Sherry Sanderson. She is an insurance specialist. And I know some parents have some questions, but we're going to start off with a couple of questions that we've heard about insurance. Sherry, what are the primary concerns? As a parent, I'm looking for a health plan, and I need a child. But on the autism spectrum, what are the options that we have as far as insurance?
Well, the Texas autism law was actually set up by somebody who was smart and knew what was involved with TRICARE.
And who was that?
I wish I knew. I don't know who authored the law, but it was.
Sorry, I was just curious about that.
It was someone who was familiar with TRICARE because what they did is they mimicked what TRICARE gave them. That's where that number, $36,000 per year, that is available for children over 18 or over 10 years old for adaptive behavior and other autism-related diagnoses. Now, if your child is under 10 years old, there isn't a limit to how much the insurance would cover. So as long as your child is diagnosed before they're age 10, then you've got some access to adaptive behavior. Unfortunately, this isn't every insurance policy. These are in fully funded employer policies. So if your employer provides insurance for you, you would be able to have that, but some of them are self-funded. The self-funded ones are not required by law to be in there. If you don't have insurance through your work and you choose to get an individual plan, either on the marketplace or individually, those are also not required to provide that. They have an option, an opt-in, so they can choose to offer those services or not. Last year we had 2 providers, and one was Blue Cross Blue Shield and the other was Humana. As I'm sure you know, Humana's been bought out by Aetna, and Aetna does not provide ABA services, so we have a potential of losing that this year. But we do have some smaller carriers like Memorial Hermann who would be able to offer ABA services on an individual plan. So there's some things that are there. They're just a little bit harder to find for the average person. So it does make having an agent who is familiar with the autism spectrum to be able to assist you in getting that done. And part of the reason I got into insurance was because I am a huge consumer, as my son is on the spectrum, along with some other disabilities.
Can I just ask, I just find it shocking that every insurance plan does not cover this, and as you just mentioned, not only are you an expert, I bet you're an expert because you're a parent.
Yes.
Because you had to do research. I'm just appalled, and I can only imagine families going through this process, finding this out. They're feeling the same way. Why is it? Why isn't the fact that you just mentioned Aetna? Why aren't these companies doing something?
It's all about bottom line. They're businesses. They're there to make a profit. That's what they need to do. And these are expensive, very expensive services. It is a capitalist society, so we need to find a way to make it worth their while. When they realize that in 2025, a quarter of the children will be on the autism spectrum, they better find a way to take care of that. Because in the next generation, they're going to be the ones that are running our government. So we're going to have to find a way to make sure that these are covered. And every one of these children has a purpose. So it's not something that you can close the door on like they've done in generations past and not pay attention to it. Each of these children have special gifts and things that they can provide to the community that other people won't be able to do. They're all very special.
Okay, so of course now you have us thinking, right? And so when we're thinking about insurance and other issues, what numbers do we need to be most concerned about when we're looking at insurance plans?
Now, this is actually where I do come in with a specialty. I have found that most people are concerned about what their deductible and their premium is. Well, the premium is important because that's how much you can afford to pay. The deductible, on the other hand, is not the most important number you need to be concerned about. The most important number you need to be worried about is the out-of-pocket maximum. Because no matter what that deductible is, it doesn't tell you how much you're going to put out for the total. And then the difference is for everything that you add to an insurance plan, you also add a cost. So if you want a copay, you're going to pay more for it. If you want prescription coverage, you're going to pay more for it. So you need to be able to balance how much you're paying for a premium with how much you're getting out of the policy. Many people buy insurance in an emotional way. We emotionally want to have the best coverage for our family. What I have tried to do with Gulf Assurance is teach people that it's actually a financial decision. It should be logical. You should be able to make the same decision on your health care as you do on buying a car. So you find out what's the best return on your investment. Most people don't realize that when you pay that higher premium, it's a sunk cost. Unless you know for 100% sure that you're going to use that out-of-pocket maximum, it's not worth the additional premium to get a higher silver level or gold level plan. You really need to be able to compare, because that silver level plan may have a copay for you, but you're also going to pay extra for it. So are you going to get enough out of that plan to cover the difference that you have to pay? Because if you don't use the insurance, it's gone. You've already paid that money. If you went with a lower cost plan and you put it into a health savings account with tax advantage dollars, then you're able to save that and use it when you need it. So then that's not a sunk cost. When you pay the premium, it's gone whether you use it or not. So if you go with that lower cost plan, even though it's a little less convenient, it's a better financial tool to get your children what they need.
So are there special rules as far as how long we can keep our children on these plans?
There are. The Affordable Care Act says that you are allowed to keep your children on your plan until age 26. But what many people don't know is if you can prove that your child is unable to work and get their own insurance policy, or unable to provide for themselves, you can appeal for the insurance company to keep them on your plan indefinitely. But you would have to show that you're a guardian and that they have permanent disability. The reason that that is important, not that you couldn't get them another policy, but if you get them their own separate policy, you've now added the burden of their deductible and out-of-pocket maximum to your financial burden. If the average person in Fort Bend County is making $42,000, you don't want to have $18,000 for 3 people, the mom, the dad, and the child, or multiples on a family for 2 different policies. You want to keep those costs down as much as possible. So if you can keep as many people on your personal plan as you can, you reduce those costs.
Thank you very much. Ms. Sherry Sanderson, everyone.